Good morning, Malaysia. Good day in Australia. Happy sleeping for Africa and Europe. They are not with us yet. And I think some part of the US can also see us. So here we are at the Sunday of the third weekend of the third Global Empowerment Summit. And I'm here with Arman Rashid. Hi, Arman. Good morning. How are
Hi,
you?
Andrea. Wonderful to reconnect with you again. Greetings to all your viewers across the world. I think that's the best part of the Global Empowerment Summit, right? That it's online. And as much as, of course, I'm missing being in person in Kuala Lumpur, this also allows us to connect across the world. So great to be on board.
And so good. I'm not keeping it as a secret anymore that next year I'm planning an in-person special summit for the fourth Global Empowerment Summit. So we will have some very nice surprise next year.
We look forward to that, right? So I think we'll be back again to the first one that we had, which actually went really well. So we look forward to that.
Yes, like the hybrid one. So tell us a little bit about how your weekend is normally going, just to warm up a little bit. I know you are
Yeah.
working a lot, and then but you are must have you are a mental health specialist, or are you like the carpenter who is not doing it at his own home?
Look, I'll be honest with you. One part which I probably don't practice, but I preach as much, is definitely sleeping. Right? I think we do know, and based on the from the recommendation from doctors and medical experts, you need at least between 6 to 8 hours of sleep. I can't confidently say I do that. Having said that, other forms of self-care, right, which is I think important and something we work with our clients on, I do practice that, and but look, self-care is also a subjective definition, right? Some would think coming on live with Andrea is work. For me, coming to live with Andrea is work and self-care because it's really fulfilling. So for me, a lot of the volunteer work that I do, particularly in the mental health space, right, back home in Malaysia, really helps me in that self-care space. So, but of course, to other people, it may look like work. So it's a but it's really important to be aware, right? And I think, look, sleep, eating proper food, some degree, some so, so some level of exercise, right? I think are all really important for us moving forward to cope with stressful lives that I think we all have, and particularly for those who are in the helping profession, right? Look, I do work not only as a counselor but also as a political analyst, and that itself has its own stress. We have election coming up in multiple countries, as it's been for a news junkie like myself, the US elections. Then we have the Malaysian elections, and of course the Victorian Australia elections are coming up as well. So lots going on, but great to connect over the weekend with you. Before we had a great panel on a very similar topic, Andrea, and now individually to come back and have a chat about it as well. Andrea, you're
Yes,
muted.
because this topic, I think it's very unique and it needs a lot of attention, and there is so much to talk about because we just have been speaking with Paula Quincy. She was explaining the middle managers, and we didn't even talk about middle managers. We were talking about leaders, CEOs, and all these. So there are so many levels of leadership, and everyone needs to take care of this, right?
Absolutely, and I think leaders have such an important role to play there because you set the tone, you set the scene, and I think it really is about authentic leadership. And Andrea, we often say that for children, particularly children's mental health, their mental health is affected by both their family, their parents, and themselves. And I would argue and extend the same thing to our workforce, right? Because your mental health is affected by not only what you do, but also your mid management, your senior management, and overall the culture that you have within the organization, right? Whether it's a healthy culture that allows, that enables an emotionally safe space, or whether it's a toxic, hostile culture which actually can undermine mental health, and eventually that will affect performance, both for the employee and also the organization.
So the toxic relationship and the toxic environment we were talking about, we were touching it with Paula, and I think that's something that we can actually talk about because it has a lot of ripple effects, right? If you are working in an environment which is toxic, and at the same time you have pressure to stay there because you need to earn money and you have to provide for your family. So there is a lot of mental issues going on there, right?
It's a lot of dilemmas, and I think there is pressure. There is no doubt that pressure that we face in terms of making ends meet, and I think the pandemic has made it. With a lot of people who lost jobs, the restructuring taking place in the workplace, and also actually a lot of people have. This other thing that's also happened, Andrea, in many countries, including Australia, we have seen the what we call the Great Resignation, where a lot of people have also left at the same time because they are trying to do something else. I think it all boils down really to, there's no one size fits all formula. Some cultures will work for some won't, but overall, there is a strong business case for employers to really invest in mental health and not look at mental health as a cost. I think quite often mental health was seen as something only in an altruistic lens. Of course, you do it as a good thing because you take care of your employees, which is really good. But at the same time, I think there's a stronger case to build on that this is really also about running your business better, about a happy employee is a productive employee, and a productive employee means a more profitable organization. So it's not really rocket science. And I think really what needs to happen, though, is, and I think where the impediment is, we are still to some extent confined, even though a lot of change has taken place. And I think the pandemic was a wake-up call, right? But to a large extent, Andrea, I think there's still a patron-client relationship. Employers often feel that, oh, okay, we are not on the same side, you see, or there's a lack of trust, and also there's a perception that, okay, I pay you where you're here to work. But the fact that human resources is about humans, it's about people, and the need to be more sensitive for your business case as well. I think that's something that we often forget.
And it reminds me of the discussion that we had about mental health and about the in-house or the out of the house professionals or building, because many companies and employers, they want to build like in-house nursery, in-house healthcare, doctors, and then no one is talking about in-house mental health or mental care.
The big challenge, though, there's a reason behind this, Andrea, is that in-house mental health support, let's say hiring a counselor or psychologist, has its challenges and limitations. You can do it in a university, perhaps, with students, right? But in a workplace, I think the reality is, not only in Malaysia, but across in other countries as well, there's still a lot of stigma about mental health. And the fact is, most employees would think twice or thrice to actually go to an in-house specialist if they need help, because there's always a fear that this will be reported. Because look, some of the topics you can talk about will make you vulnerable. These are really your deepest inner secrets, right, in a way that you're talking about. And I think it's really difficult for you to open up in any society for that. And hence, we have employee assistance programs, for example, that have developed as a sort of gap, bridging that gap. And you have professional mental health companies, and there are many companies, right? Some work in the community mental health space, some work in the private sector, and they essentially provide outsourced services. So typically, a big company or a medium-sized company would have an arrangement with a mental health company to have either check-in times or where employees can access support. I'm involved with a couple of organizations where I do provide mental health support to employees from EAP programs. And you know what? Even after that, I do get, Andrea, the first question I'm often asked is that, hey, are you sure what I'm going to share with you? I'm not going to share with my employer. So I have to assure them that, that this is a safe space and they can share. Of course, if there's a risk of any harm to the person or someone else, or there's any other legal issues, that's different. But typically, that it's a safe space, and there is, like a professional commitment that we have to maintain that confidentiality of what we are discussing. But it's still not easy. It's not easy to share. It's not easy to even share in a workspace context. So that is a big challenge, and hence I think really the external service providers will come in. But I will also build on something here, Andrea, that doesn't mean that we can't do in-house things. So I would suggest and I would recommend that when it comes to providing the professional support, and that's actually seeing a professional, of course it needs to be I think outsourced. But having said that, there's so much that can be done internally: training, literacy campaigns, mental health literacy campaigns. A big focus should be really on mid-level management, how they could be trained in providing feedback in a more constructive and sensitive manner, which is also going to be helpful, and instead of breaking down the morale of the employees. So there's a lot that can be actually done there, and so it's not entirely outsourcing. It's like internally as well. There's a lot we can do as well.
We have a comment here from Alchan. He's saying most companies would have their HR manager to be a head of counseling of mental psychology of employees, rather than having an additional headcount employing a chief mental officer. What do you think about this?
Yeah, look, there is definitely a resource issue here, and the reality is, when it comes to mid to small level organizations, it's really difficult for them to have either a chief mental officer, even have outsourcing with a mental health organization. And it's also true that instead of chief mental officer, mental health officer, that'd be great, but that's not a reality in many cases, right? So that doesn't necessarily mean that the head of HR has to be head of counseling, simply because I don't feel that most employers will go to the HR manager for that. However, the HR manager can definitely, if they are trained in mental health, has a knowledge and understanding and literacy of mental health, they definitely can play a big role in addressing the mental health challenges, which, we also need to look at mental health there, not only in terms of mental health, but mental well-being. That it's not only about addressing symptoms of anxiety, depression, or stress, but more so it's about productivity and better work and a better work environment. So, frankly, I to respond to the comment, if an HR manager, well, we don't have to call him the head of counseling, but has an understanding of mental health, I think that'd be really helpful for an organization.
Good point. Thank you so much, Chen, for bringing it up. And the next thing that I was thinking while I was listening to you is the new methods or the new things in mental health education or mental health processes. How do you call that? Practices. Are there any new things that are coming up that are somewhat different from what usually mental health professionals use to help people?
Well, look, one thing that's developing, Andrea, is definitely making mental health more accessible. We do see so the therapeutic couch, which we used to look at, right, as the traditional mental health model, is definitely going to change, and it's already changed with the pandemic. And I think we are going to now find much more innovative applications of that. One of them is Thoughtful Chat, TFC. Me and some of our colleagues do some part-time work with them. Thoughtful Chat provides micro chat-based what they call bite-sized coaching, which also addresses some of the mental health challenges, and hence you will see gradually, particularly in that bite-sized space, counseling and coaching being like the overlap there being there. So this is not to say that like bite-sized coaching may, or say help might be appropriate for everybody, but someone who, for example, has self-harm or suicidal thoughts, it might be more beneficial for them to really get professional help in traditional counseling that we get. But even that, I think we are seeing delivery more and more online, for example, through video platforms. So the accessibility is much higher. But beyond that, right, beyond the sort of more severe conditions for day-to-day challenges and all, and whether in the workforce or whether it's at the family level, I think we will be seeing a lot. And I think the Thoughtful Chat is a leader here, definitely, and they have set the standards high. But we'll see more organizations like that. And the big challenge here is really the innovation, and we need to continue to innovate and provide that very responsible, ethical support. So for example, in the Thoughtful Chat, I can say that there's there's supervision, there's a lot of um, uh, internal processes to make sure that the services provided are ethical, responsible, and safe. So I think we will see a lot of change, but the change also has to be managed well, because we do know that that there are particularly there are concerns that we may have for example, child abuse, online, right? So I think those are the things that there's. So when we move to the online space, we have to be really careful about the platforms, for example. So that's why it's really important for credible platforms like Thoughtful Chat to come up. They have that process that ensures the ethical service. So it's important for clients when they reach out, right, to an organization to do their research to make sure that they are signing up for ethically sound and a professional organization, and not just a random organization.
I love the point, and I love that you are conscious about it, that there are so many things online that we have to really be careful about, not just the cybersecurity, but also the mental health and the abuse that can come with this open, everyone can chat, log in, everyone can look like anyone, these kind of not confirmed personalities. I saw though one platform which was not mental health, but it was targeting mindfulness, and they created already a metaverse for mindfulness, so people can go there to meditate, and there they use avatars, which means that they don't have to show their own faces, which again brings up the questions, but it also gives some kind of privacy to the people, so that they don't have to tell their real names or tell about their problems with their real identity.
Look, I think that to some, that safe space. Look, I'll be very honest with you. I mean, we do okay when it comes to traditional counseling and mental health support. We do need to know about the background of it, right? Because whether you look at systemic theory or whichever way you look at it, the reality is childhood and other influences on the clients have shaped their perception of what's happening now. So you do, but frankly, I don't need details that they are not willing to share, right? So I don't. I mean, so it's a. But I must say though, but from an organizational point, so I'm talking about it from a provider and a client's point of view. But from an organizational point of view, though, an organization will need to know the real name, the address, for safety reasons, right? Because look, when you're in the mental health space, you have to always take into account and address the risk that may happen for self-harm, for example. And like I said, it's a safe space, but we also have a responsibility to, ensure and to save lives, actually. So hence, I think it's for safety purposes, we do need both contact addresses there. But that's where the trust is important in this process. And I think I want to highlight here that all of us have been trained in mental health as counselor or psychologist. For us, the ethical conduct is a very important part, not only because of course, the regulatory reasons, right, our licensing and all that, but even beyond that, I would say it's important because Andrea, it's a caring profession, it's a helping profession. We have to be responsible because you're dealing with human lives, you're dealing with human emotions, right? So, and if we are not responsible, you're doing a disservice to both the profession and your clients who are trusting you. So the privilege of a client coming to you, sharing with you what they have not shared with anyone else, does definitely extend to a responsibility on our part to provide that responsible, ethical, and professional care. So I would say that this is where I think we need to perhaps also differentiate here. That particularly with severe cases and all, we do need mental health professionals. But also beyond that, though, day to day, if we could reach out in the workplace, in the offices, in the schools and colleges, and have a more emotionally responsive system, you wouldn't even need professionals like me anymore. You will, but there would always, but really, a lot can be really prevented. So my point is that by creating an emotionally responsive space and leaders playing a role there, you actually wouldn't escalate challenges to the extent that it would escalate to a disorder or long-term condition in most cases. And in the cases that it does, you do have mental health professionals. So I would say that we will have to move to a more triage-based system in the future. And different types of services will have to be provided. If we had the therapeutic touch before, it still is there. No one's here to replace that. But we'll also see more online, internet-based services coming up, and Malaysia also, I think, here can take a lead, because I think, one thing I often tell a lot of our colleagues and friends, right, that there's a popular perception that Asian countries are behind, Western countries are far ahead with stigma and all. Yes and no. I mean, when it comes to stigma, I think we're talking about a very similar situation across these countries, frankly. So it exists in every country. The only difference, though, is that developed countries have much more resources which invest in
Mhm.
mental health. So that is a challenge, but that's also compensated by what I would call the mental health activism that we see in Malaysia now, right? The community mental health space, they're qualified professionals, organizations who are reaching out to different segments of society and providing a wide range of services. So we are going to see a much more creative and innovative space in mental health as we move forward. And the mental health senior practitioners, those who run organizations, have to also be much more innovative if you're going to reach out to the new generation who need us the most.
I think that's a point that you said here, which is very important to know, that everywhere there is a situation and everywhere there's underlying problem, and everywhere we need to focus on more how we will solve this preventively and not waiting until everywhere it will just burst out, and we will have so many patients at the same time that we cannot handle them anymore, or we cannot support them anymore. So it's very important to keep it up, to provide what we can and to work on providing more. Thank you so much for bringing up those points. And Alchan was telling us that have a question, so I'm reading it out again. So if leader is having mental issues and picky on small mistakes of employees and keeps scolding them, where is the outlet to complain against the leader? So yeah, this is a very tricky
It's a
question.
good question. Look, in any society, I think there is a power distance with the CEO. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, I think there are internal processes. Um, HR is there. There's also maybe sometimes in government organizations or the state organization, you will have an ombudsman, for example, so who you can actually reach out to. So there are, I think, there are grievance mechanisms. It's not easy to make a step, to complain or raise an issue related to the CEO. But I think this is where I would say that both the leaders have to have a change in mindset, looking at not looking at things as us versus them. Likewise, I think for us as employees, we also have to perhaps change that mindset that it's us versus them. We are in this together. The modern organization will need both employers and employees to have trust with each other, and we are in this together. If it's not only about my mental health, it's about also my productivity, and so it's in the interest for both the leader and also myself to be on the same page about safe mental health spaces. And that's why it goes back to awareness and working with our the business leaders, right, to for them to be aware. And I think they can look at look, it's not rocket science. They can also see the dollar values of presenteeism, absenteeism. We know those concepts, right? Absenteeism is the obvious one, when people are absent due to mental health issues, but presenteeism is when they're there but there's a productivity issue. So we are really on the same page here. So my take on this would be less on complaints, but grievances have to be, of course, addressed, and there'll be channels for that. But really, for us to focus on the coming together in making a safe space, whether you are a CEO or whether you're an employee.
I think that's the perfect ending of the discussion. I see CArrie already coming up. CArrie on the go, as I see. So I will bring her up very, very soon so that we can continue the discussion with her about leadership. Thank you so much, Arman, for being here and starting the day for us. And hope to see you again very, very soon.
Thank you, Andrea. Great pleasure to always be here on board with you. Thank you very much, and have a great, wonderful day to everyone in KL. Best wishes to you.
To you too. Thank you so much,
Bye-bye.
Arman.
God
Bye
bless you.
bye. Bye bye. So switching in the studio, CArrie is on the go, so we will bring her up and we will have another amazing discussion before we are heading to the masterclass. Remember, 1 p.m., Piero is doing a 2 hours masterclass on leadership, and Piero is someone to join because his passion, I mean, that's just crazy. You have to see it for yourself. All right, let's bring up CArrie and let's talk about our topic. Hi, CArrie, how are you today?
I'm well. How are you, Andrea?
I'm good. You look fantastic. I love these glasses. So nice.
Oh, look, I'm just aware that the connection may be not great today. I'm en route, so listeners, please excuse me if we get a little bit of distortion. But I'm as all good global leaders, we have to thrive in life and work, and part of that is being able to be with your family on particular weekends. And I've travelled a few hundred kilometres this weekend, and which is just beautiful because it gets you out of the city, gets you out of the normal, and gets you out into nature. And you look around, you just go, oh my gosh, so grateful to be able to do this. So thanks for thanks for letting me tell you where I am. I'm in this just in New South Wales, and I've been right up to the Snowy Mountains, and I'm coming back to Sydney. So just a little bit, if anyone knows about New South Wales and about Australia, you might be able to picture the beautiful gum trees, the cold mountains where the snow is, and then we come back into suburban. But we've had so much rain that it is so green. It is just amazing. So.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I mean, it's also nice that you are on the go and you are doing this while you are traveling, because that's also something very close to life. Like, it can happen, and then digital and our phones are making it possible that you can be with me even if you are on the go. So it's just an amazing thing, right?
Well, I think technology, when we use it well, it's a real gift. It's a tool, and if it enables us to still do what we love in both life and work, well, I think it's a great way of being able to manage everything, but also to be part of it. We have a global world, and technology has been our gift, I think, and so why not use it to good effect? Anyway, what are we going to talk about today, Andrea?
Yes, today we will actually explore further the leaders thrive, how they can thrive, and I just exactly what you were talking about. It gave me an idea of talking about the boundaries and the family and the other side of leadership, because we always talk about, okay, how can we be perfect leaders, how we lead a team, how we do this and that, but how is the other side to keep up the balance, how to integrate work in our lives, and how to manage it so that we are not shortcutting our family.
Oh, I think you've hit the nail on the head. And that word thrive, every one of us has a different understanding or about what it looks like for them and what it looks like for other people. And it's not easy. I mean, if you think about the fact that we've got a lot of people around the world, many, many different situations, who are really weary, they're frustrated and fatigued about the changes they've had to make in their workplace as well as their life, what changes have happened to them. And change is a constant. I mean, it's one of the things that we know is going to happen to us every day. It's going to be a change of, what will I do first? What will I do second? Where will I be able to maneuver to this? What if I fracture my foot in two places? How am I going to change how I do all that? But I think we're very aware at the moment about how our mental health is, and that's why our previous speaker was really very interesting, because all our traits, our personality traits and our behaviours, I think, have really come to the fore. And the more that we are self-aware about them, that leads us to be more self-aware about the people we have relationships with, the teams that we lead or the teams we work with, the people we connect with, across different continents. What is it about them that we need to know and be aware of that gives us information, gives us a little bit of really positive intelligence about, be more curious, lean in and listen up, tune up your listening, your listening skills, to find out more about their story, because I think that's the richness of our thriving, is in understanding our own story and being able to create our own story, but also taking notice and being respectful of other people's stories, no matter where we work, in whatever job that we're doing.
Perfect perspective. I think that's something good to bring up. We had a little bit of distraction in your earpieces, so there was a little bit of noise in the backstage. If you can hold the phone in a different way, maybe it will be helping. Let me see.
Just while I do that, I'll just we'll keep the conversation going. I tell you what I was thinking of when you first introduced me. I'm thinking, you know, we talk well-being, and how do we work out what we need for our own well-being, and particularly when we're in leadership roles. And there's a great technique we can use, and it's all about basically using our hand. I really like this because this is part of us, you know, this beautiful hand that we have. I'm lucky to have two, same as you. But when I look at it, I can use that hand for a number of prompts. And one of the things I'd like to say to all our listeners is, when you think about what it is that you do well in your thriving, you know, what are the areas? And so there are 5 that I'd like to talk about. So I'm just going to change these headphones a little bit, everybody's, and we're ready to rock and roll. See if this helps.
Yes, let's see.
Okay, beautiful. So I'm going to say to you all, if you've got a hand in front of you now, or you may have a pen and paper, trace your hand on that pen and paper, or if you've got your journal with you or your notebook, whatever you're using. I want you to think about putting in each of your fingers a particular word. And this is basically about our well-being. So the first word I'm going to ask you to do is, what do you already have in place around your mental or your cognitive thinking skills? That's going to be our first finger, right? You can use your thumb if you like. Then our second finger, I'm going to say to you, the next lot of words that I want you to put inside that finger is, what do you do for your physical well-being? What type of things? And instantly what comes to mind is the type of exercise we do, the nutrition or the food, the type of sleep we get, how much of that. So we're thinking quite practically now. So as we go through these headings, we've done firstly cognitive or thinking skills as number 1. Number 2 is our physical skills and physical strategies that we put around our well-being. Our third finger, we're going to be putting in, what do we do socially? What are some of the social boundaries we have in place that we know work for us? And the fourth finger, we're going to look at, what is it about the environment we set up for ourselves? So our fourth finger, just put environment there, because these are major headings and they're going to be triggers for your thinking about what it is you do. And finally, pinky or your thumb, whichever way you started, what is it around your spiritual well-being that we have in place? So a really lovely framework. Once again, we're just using this notion of our hand because it's with us most of the time. And if you flip that hand over, you're going to be able to see your unique, magnificent handprint and then fingerprints on each finger. These are directly related to how unique you are, because there's nobody that has the same handprint or fingerprint that you do. Pretty special, really, isn't it? So I want you to really think about what it is that you've got in place for those 5 areas. So how about your thinking skills? You know, do you like to use particular self-coaching questions, perhaps self-directing questions? Do you always ask yourself, well, that could be the answer to that or a solution to that? What else? What if? Go back to what else, because what else and what else is, if we look at the initials of the starts of those words, AWE. What does AWE spell? It spells or. So in these alternatives that we're thinking about our thinking skills, we're actually looking for the awesome or the new ideas or the new ways that we could possibly do things. So we've got our thinking skills. What do we do around our socials? What are the boundaries? Do you turn off, talking to people at a certain time of the evening? Do you have days where you limit social interaction, or do you have days where you know that you can blend working one-on-one, working with yourself and your projects, or what it is, your initiative, the book you're writing, the articles you're doing, the connections you're making, and then when do you do the face-to-face or the group work, or when do you actually get out and see people face-to-face? Because the trick at the temptation, not the trick, the temptation at the moment is that we can do everything virtually and we're missing out on some of those beautiful nuances of being face-to-face with people. And then what do we do around our physical health? Well, I know most of us have got that down pat. We know what exercise works for us. We know what food. We know when to limit, say, alcohol. We know what to put in place around different types of food, and our hydration is super, super important for that. Then our environment. What do we set up, for that? Do we really like candles, essential oils? Do we have a particular type of music playing? All that sort of thing that we do. Do we like sunlight in the rooms that we work in? Or do we make sure that we actually have a mixture of inside, outside, that type of thing? What is it we do around our environment? And then finally our spirituality. And it's massive. Our mindfulness techniques, meditation, yoga, you name it, our religious beliefs, they are core to the culture of our own well-being for thriving. So that's a nice strategy and a nice little framework to use. And we can do it for ourselves really quite well, because in just looking at that hand, we can also go, well, it's about time, Andrea, you gave yourself a high five, girl, right? CArrie, and you put that high five, you put that hand on your heart, right? There is a technique. The neuroscience behind this is super interesting. And there is evidence to say that high-fiving yourself with your hand on your heart and saying to yourself, you are safe, you are loved, you can do this, it's part of the magic of how we thrive. In those days when we're feeling really lousy, we're not doing too well, we've had major surprises or shocks, a dream may not have come off, or a goal may have not have come off as how we wanted it, but we do know that we can use that. And what else? Come on, think this through, girl. What else can you do here? We look for the alternatives and the options. So that's just something I know is working for a lot of people at the moment.
Yeah, that's a good tip, and I truly believe in embodiment and using the body for healing and including movement into this, because I see that working whenever we are working with people and teaching them dance, just simple dance, and then you see the change, the dynamism, the attention, the listening, the focus, everything is changing, right? So it's a very interesting thing to bring in the neuroscience, the body knowledge, the body awareness, and the activity. So that's great. That's really good point. Thank you so much for the little trick. Jagatis is saying that she already has the first finger is writing. The second finger is she does a specific exercise called Bagua exercise. The third finger for her, it's raising awareness to Gen Y. Fourth finger is feeling accomplished, and fifth finger is happiness.
Oh, well done. Great. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's brilliant. and how unique. I mean, I think this is the beauty. When you actually have an opportunity to share what you do, you become more curious about people, don't you? And you go, oh, I must investigate that. I must take that up, see what works for me, And that's part of thriving. Yeah.
Amazing. And the second aspect that I wanted to ask you today is because leadership is also about community building. It's also about building teams. It's about bringing people together. And that is an aspect also that we are exploring this weekend. So when it's about community building, and it's about a network of global leaders, I guess, on your side, because you are building a leaders community. So how do you do that? What makes it so successful, and what gives the heart why people want to stay with you?
I connect with people in a way that where we have a similar set of values. And I think that's what connects you to each other. You're curious about people to find out what it is, what's their story, why they're doing what they're doing, what gives them the joy in this. When you're leading a community, it's not always being the expert. If you know, it's about sharing. It's about the collective intelligence that is shared in a very generous way. Now, if you're leading a team in a workplace, and yes, and it's a very specific job and outcome that you want, well, then everyone needs to understand that. But in the way you lead that, it can be quite flexible. The more that you generate the voice of the people you're working with and give them an opportunity to lean into new experiences and also be supported in those new experiences and those new goals or strategies that they're employing. I think that's the real richness, because you're saying you're valued and your work is valued, and we also value the growth that's going to happen. So we want to make sure that the environment that you're working in is nurturing that, is enabling you to have a small fail and learn from it, or work together and say, listen, tell me how you mastered how to do that. How did you learn to do that? They are one set of crazy skills you've got there, very masterful. So I've often done it through my career. I've gone and worked with people who I've recognised as masters in particular areas, and I've said to them, I'm curious, is there a way we can work together? Not worry about losing face, that I can't show the rest of my team that I don't know how to do this. I think we flip that, and instead of a glass half empty, we say, I've got a glass half full here and I've got plenty of energy and curiosity. How about we work together? Because I actually want to be able to further develop my skills, because that's the type of person I am. I believe in being generous. I believe in working towards the similar values and goals. And I also believe that I've got to learn, and the only way I'm going to learn is probably to make a few mistakes, be able to laugh at myself at the same time, but to sort of just give everybody another percent up, another push, another little injection to say, as the group, we can do this together to get results that you never think of getting, aspiring to and inspiring. Aspiring and inspiring each other, I think is pretty important.
Lovely points here. I just really love it. And we, at the same time, Alchan got inspired too. So he's sharing also his 5 fingers. So the first one is mindfulness. The second one is rest 4 to 6 hours. The third one is building friends, acquaintance network. The fourth one is ESG consciousness. And then the fifth one is listening, soothing meditation audios.
Beautiful. Well done, Keith. Thank you so much. That is, and it's just beautiful that everyone now is applying that to their own under those headings. I think that's fantastic. Yeah. And look, we can do this not just with ourselves. We can do it with people who we work with, who we know perhaps aren't 100% at the moment. We can do it with our next generations. We can do it with those little people who are going to be the leaders of tomorrow, of a world that's very different to now. But the true essence of who they are, when we look at it, is around using our intelligence, looking at how we learn, being able to grow, and being able to share and connect. And that deep spiritual side of us, that really is who we are, why we get out of bed each day to do what we do. So, I mean, I think we have a big responsibility in anything that we're doing today, particularly for the generations who are yet to come. So,
I think that's a lovely frame for the conversation. I will let you go on the road and enjoy the journey. But just as a last sentence, if you can tell us what is for you in 2023, what is the big thing coming up for CArrie, then we can say goodbye.
Well, we have some fantastic retreats and immersions for people in business, entrepreneurs, founders, anyone leading an organisation, corporates. So we're working on those for this year. So Global Leaders Thrive, that's what we're doing. We're working towards that relational or the human-centered aspect of your leadership, those new skill sets and mindsets that we need for a world that we're creating as we're going along. We're in the creation. It's an amazing concept to think about. And we've got these fantastic retreats and immersions that we're working on as well. So I know, Andrea, you'll be able to find out more about those as well as all through our networks, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's websites. It's going to be fantastic. So watch the space.
Looking forward to it. And thank you so much for taking the time on your road from your family and being here with us on a Sunday. Thank you so much, CArrie. I appreciate you.
An honor and a privilege. You go gently because your thriving matters. Bye, everyone.
Bye, CArrie. So guys, thank you so much. This was the first 2 interviews. And now we are heading to the masterclass room. In the masterclass room, Piero is eagerly waiting for you. So be there on time, 1 p.m. Malaysia time. We are starting our masterclass about leadership and how to be fearless leaders with Piero Mardezic. So this is what I know. Piero is someone who I truly recommend to join in and to listen to because, his masterclasses, his speeches, his attitude is just inspiring itself. So see you there, guys, if you subscribe for the masterclasses, and it starts right in 15 minutes. And I hope you otherwise have a beautiful Sunday. We will be back live around I think 3 p.m. I have one interview with Alaya, so don't miss that one. Alaya is an amazing person, and we will have a 25 minutes conversation. Then I will announce something very, very specific regarding the Global Empowerment Hub. And then we have the second masterclass with Jai Narayan, and we will talk about keynote speaking. And that's another thing that Jai is mastering, and he also would like to teach it to you how you can master the same thing. Then we will be on a little bit of break between 6 and 8, and then we are coming back with John Scott and Jeff for 2 more interviews. And there will be the long-awaited online quiz networking night from 9 p.m. So don't miss that. I hope you can be there and enjoy the networking and learn and have fun together. Thank you so much, guys. See you in the masterclass and have an awesome Sunday.